let's move on to the tiny story.
Okay.
And see how it ties into their philosophy. It seems like they're using science fiction as a metaphor for something. What did you take away from it?
Well, the story draws heavily on science fiction tropes,
Yeah.
specifically from the show Babylon 5.
Right.
It talks about writers who are asleep to the truth
Okay.
and users who are actively engaged in shaping reality. It's a classic battle between passivity and agency. And they even have these characters, Monster and Smiling Face, representing the challenges and rewards of this journey. It's a pretty clear-cut depiction of good versus bad.
And they have this rather unexpected way of framing the whole concept.
What do you mean?
Well, they actually draw a parallel to a science fiction TV movie, Babylon 5, A Call to Arms.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know it's kind of a left turn, and it really makes you wonder what they're trying to get at.
Yeah.
By using this fictional narrative as a framework for understanding these real-world anxieties and solutions that they've been talking about.
So for those of us who haven't seen Babylon 5, A Call to Arms, what are like the key plot points that they're drawing on here? Like what's the connection they're making between this sci-fi story and, our pursuit of awesome life?
Okay, so the movie centers around humanity facing this existential threat from a powerful enemy known as the Drakh.
Okay.
And the main character, Captain Sheridan, he receives these cryptic warnings and guidance from this mysterious figure named Galen. And to combat this threat, Sheridan has to assemble this very diverse team with unique skills, and they have to overcome internal conflicts and make some really difficult decisions along the way.
Okay.
And the story really emphasizes this idea of, collective action and resilience in the face of really overwhelming odds.
Okay, so we've got impending doom, a reluctant hero, a diverse team, and a fight for survival. It's classic sci-fi stuff, but how does this tie into the real-world anxieties they're highlighting on the website, and how does it connect to their whole vision of awesome life?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it? On the surface, it does seem like a bit of a stretch.
Right.
But when you start to think about it, there's some really interesting parallels.
Okay, I'm listening.
Well, for example, think about the Drakh virus in the movie.
Okay.
It represents this invisible, potentially devastating threat that humanity has to confront. And the website, I think, is trying to draw a parallel between that fictional virus and the real-world anxieties that they've been talking about, like the potential for pandemics or even the misuse of bioengineered technology.
So are they saying that we're basically all living in a sci-fi movie just waiting for our own Captain Sheridan to come and save us?
Not necessarily. I think their focus is more on this idea of individual agency and collective action. Sheridan doesn't defeat the Drakh by himself. He brings together this diverse team, each with their own unique skills and perspectives, and they work together to find a solution.
So it's more about recognizing that we all have the potential to make a difference.
Exactly.
Even when faced with these huge challenges.
Right. It's like, instead of waiting for a savior, we need to step up and be the heroes of our own story.
I like that. I like that a lot. And it kind of reminds me of their emphasis on collaboration and trusting diverse perspectives, right?
Yeah.
Because Sheridan's team is made up of humans, aliens, even former enemies.
That's right.
They have to put aside their differences and work together to achieve this common goal.
Exactly. And that ties back to what they were saying about seeking out information from certain regions and avoiding others, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like they're suggesting that there are certain areas of the world that are more aligned with this collaborative, well-being-oriented approach, while others represent a more individualistic or power-driven mindset.
Which is, of course, a whole other can of worms about, bias and whose perspective is being represented and all of that. But I guess for the sake of this conversation, let's stick with the Babylon 5 analogy for now. They also seem to be drawing a parallel between Sheridan's leadership and the kind of leadership that we need to see in the real world in order to actually achieve awesome life.
That's right. I mean, Sheridan is portrayed as this reluctant hero, someone who's kind of thrust into a position of leadership and has to make these really tough choices.
And he's not perfect.
No, not at all.
But he's committed to doing what he believes is right.
Exactly.
Even when it's hard.
And that resonates with their emphasis on individual responsibility, right?
Yeah.
It's like we all have a role to play in creating a better future.
Yeah.
Even if that means making some sacrifices or taking on challenges that we didn't necessarily ask for.
Right, right. And, it makes me think about their curated list of positive and reassuring content, too, because it's not just about escapism, right? It's also about finding inspiration and guidance from these stories that embody values of courage, compassion, and collective action.
Exactly. And it's like they're saying, look, the world can be a pretty scary place, but there's still hope.
Yeah.
There are people out there fighting the good fight, and we can all be a part of that. And it really raises some interesting questions about how we can use fictional narratives to
Yeah.
try to make sense of these really complex real-world issues
Right.
and to hopefully inspire some positive change.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely something to think about. Or is there a deeper message here that we're maybe missing?
Yeah, it is. It's like they're saying, hey, things could be amazing, but we need to be aware of the risks and we need to take action to try to prevent them. And maybe that sense of urgency is what's needed to spark real change. It can spark our imagination. It can inspire us to think of new solutions.
Hmm.
And it reminds us that even in those kind of, darkest of times, there's always hope.
And remember, the pursuit of awesome life, whatever that means to you, it's a journey, right? There's no one-size-fits-all solution, and there are going to be bumps along the way.
For sure.
But by embracing curiosity and critical thinking and just a willingness to learn and adapt, we can all try to create a future that's just, a little bit more awesome. We hope it sparked some interesting thoughts and maybe even inspired you to continue exploring and questioning and working toward your own version of an awesome life. Until next time, keep diving deep.